Hello and good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our third series in our webinars. Today we are going to be looking at our bank statements. And this session will also be recorded today. So my name is Karen Carbon and I'll be guiding you through the e-bank statements and how to manage your e-bank statement lines in Twinfield. So if you do need to get hold of me, you've got my contact details up on the screen. And just to let you know that this session will be recorded. So our next webinar session is going to be on VAT, and that's going to take place on the 20th of November, but I will give you another little reminder at the end of this webinar. Okay, so before we actually start running through all of the different topics that we're going to cover through on e-bank statements, I'd just like to set out a little poll for you. So if you just give me 1 second, I'm just going to go and open up a poll question for you. Okay, so the poll question, are you currently using the new look and feel version of Twinfield? So if you could just answer either yes or no, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Okay, so just in a couple of moments, we're going to be closing the poll, and then I'll be able to reveal the percentage that are using the new look and feel as opposed to classic. Okay, so we have got 25% of you are using the new Twinfield look and feel, and 75% of you are still using Twinfield Classic. So it'd be great to kind of know your feedback, those of you that are using the new look and feel. And those of you that are not, you will have a sneak peek into the new look and feel again today on this webinar. The whole webinar will be done in the new look and feel, which is our control room. Okay, so today we're looking at bank statements. So how do we work with our bank statements? So if you're downloading your bank statement from your banking provider, you will need to be in CSV formats. And if you download it and it's in Excel format, you can also just be able to resave that bank statement in CSV. So we're looking at the file manager because that's where we'll be going to import in our bank statements. And once we've actually gone through and imported in our bank statement, we're going to have a look at creating the bank template. Once we've created the bank template, we're going to go ahead and manage those bank statement lines. So we'll be looking kind of like to reconcile and be doing a bit of allocation, so doing both in one go. After we've finished managing our bank statement, we're going to look at where all the rules are actually being stored in Twinfield and how we can actually go through and update the ledger with our bank statement. We'll also be having a look in the Provisional Transactions, and I know that's an area that we've visited before. And then if you do have any questions, we can have a question and answer session at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to go into Twinfield, and in Twinfield we're going to start off the demonstration. So as you can see, I'm in the new look and feel version of Twinfield. And for those of you that were not on last month's webinar, you can see that we've got a nice handy search function at the top. So if you're a little lost, you can just type in where you need to be. We've also got a nice little hover bar down the side, which will actually tell you which modules you're going to be going into. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is hover down to where I've got cash and banks. And once I've clicked into this area, you can see that it's got a nice tiled area. So if we want to import in our bank statements that we've saved on our computer, we just need to click the plus import statements button, and what that's going to do is going to open up the file manager for us. Okay, so once you're in the file manager, let's click Browse and navigate back to where our bank statement is stored. So I have my demo bank statement, which I just need to double click on, and I have my upload button, which I can click on, and that will just shoot my bank statement under the heading My Files. So the next thing we need to do is click on our blue Action button, and under Actions, let's go to Import. Okay, so we've got a bit of file information at the top. The filtering options you don't need to worry about, because on the CSV file you'll only have just one worksheet. But the third section is where we really need to concentrate on. So here is where we can either pick one of our bank statements off the list, and if your bank statement is not there, then you can opt to create a new one. So if I now click New, it's just going to take me into a page where I can actually now give my template a name, and I can actually start the mapping of my CSV file. So just for our demo today, I'm just going to call this Demo Bank. And then I have some options, especially where it has header row and first data row. Depending on how your bank statement is produced from your provider, you may need to just click into the header row and just make sure the headers are highlighted. And if they are, you can cancel out of here, and then do the same thing for first data row, and just make sure the row of data is highlighted. If you need to choose another row of data, because it might just be there's a gap between the header and where the first row of data starts, then all you need to do is to click on the line and tell Twinfield where the first row of data is going to start. And once you've made any changes, simply click OK. So that's the header part of our CSV statement done for us. The second part is going in and looking at how to map those lines. So firstly, we have the date. And if I scroll down, I can see that I have statement date, and I just need to tell Twinfield which format it's in, which is day, month, year. And I have my transaction type here. So I think I have one here called transaction code. And then I need to map my description. And then on this bank statement, I have a column for debit and credit, so paid in and paid out. So I can just choose paid, and for paid in, received. But I know on some statements you only get one column, then you do have the option just to choose amount. Okay, so the last line, which is the balance, Twinfield's going to recognise all of that for me, so I can just choose to ignore it. Okay, so this is my template all mapped for me. So if I click Save, it just takes me back onto my main import screen. Okay, so one thing you might have noticed is on my CSV bank statement that I've downloaded, I don't have my account number and sort code. And if that is the case, and on your statement that you download, you don't have your sort code and account number, you will have this box. And if you double click it, it will just list out your bank statements for you. So I can just choose my bank, which is bank number 1, which relates to Barclays. If your sort code and account number is already in the file, you will not see this additional box popping up for you. Okay, so now let's click Process. Okay, so once my bank statements are processing, I just need to go back on my hoverbar and go back to Cash and Banks. And this time I'm going to click the orange button for bank statements. Okay, so I can now see that my bank statements have all updated on the list for me. You have a nice little refresh button at the side. So if you're uploading and you've done a whole month worth of bank statements, they might not all come through in one go, so you can just click on the refresh button. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at managing all of my bank statement lines. So I can see that I've got a statement here for April. And I'm just going to click into the magnifying glass. And here I can see that I've got my wages and salaries, which have gone to my suspense. And I've got a customer amount which I've received that's also gone into suspense as well. Where I've got 77C, those are for my BACS transactions, and 77A are just checks, supplier checks, which have come through on the bank statements. So the first thing I need to do is to go into my first option, which is wages and salaries. So under the open button, if I just click on the little wand, which is the statement line wizard, it brings me up with a split screen, and I have the line information over on the left hand side, which I can tick, and I can just highlight the relevant information. So I just want to highlight wages and salaries, and it's now there in my first criteria, so I can click OK. The minute I save, it saves the instructions in the company, which is what I would like it to do. But this time I've got an amount, and this amount is basically the wages amount, the net wages amount. But if I want to split this between how much was gross, how much went to my employer's NI, and then how much is going to be paid out to NIC, for example, and my PAYE, I can change this total. So if I know what my gross total is, I can actually just go in and just change it. So for example, I can just type in at the top 8,500 because I know that was the gross wages, and then just take that out of suspense and just pop it to general ledger. I can now just go to the suspense account and just change that and just start typing in the word wages. And I can see it's coming up with my admin expenses for wages here, which is 301. Then the next thing I need to do is to click here on where I've got the 1700. That brings me up another tab, which I can now start processing. So the next amount, I've got £900 just going to my employer's NI. And that's also a debit. So you do need to remember, if the signage is changed to a credit, just remember to click the drop down and change it. So now just click back on suspense, and I'm just going to type in 30 because I know it's in the 30 range, and I can see I've got my employer NI contribution here. So the next thing I need to do is now just click on the 2,600, and this is a credit, and if I click the general ledger, I can now just put this through to PAYE and NIC. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my next transaction. So I've just got a customer transaction which has come through. So I want Twinfield to recognise Chesterfield every single time. So I've just highlighted the name. It falls into the first criteria box, and I can click OK. And this time I can tell Twinfield that it's a customer and just start typing in my customer. So only on customers and suppliers will you have the open items button highlighted for you, and I can click into the open items window, and I can see that amount matches perfectly, so I can now click OK. So I've got no more lines to process, so if I now click save, it takes me back to the middle screen, and I can see there's nothing going to my suspense account, so I can now hit the back button. Okay, so one of the things you can do to manage your bank statements is to highlight them all and click this button to say apply rules. So if there's any rules that may apply to other bank statements that you've uploaded, it's just going to save you time, and it's going to cut down the amount of work and the repetition that you do. And this is only if you're uploading several months at a time, or you're uploading a whole month and there might just be some repeat coding that is going on throughout the month on your bank statements. And just a click of the refresh button, and it will let you know how many transactions are in suspense. Okay, so I can see that everything's cleared out of suspense for me here, and I've got my last bank statement, which is July, and I can go in and just have a look and see what's different. Okay, so I can see that here I've got an amount going through for bank charges, and I have a credit which is going through here as well, which it hasn't identified. So one of the things I can do on my first line, I can just leave because it's identified that for me. it's highlighted my VAT line. So the third line down, if I click into it, and it brings me up with my line information. I don't need to do anything with it because that reference number will not come through again. So this time I'm just going to put it straight to the general ledger, and I'm just going to put it through to my paying in account. So it could just be that I haven't actually posted a paying in slip, but I've already given it a reference. So once I go through and I just code it to that account, when I'm ready to actually put that slip through with that code, I'll be able to match off that transaction. So if I now go ahead to my bank charges, I can now tick the line information and just highlight the word bank charges and click OK. And then just repeat that step by taking it out of the general ledger and just typing in bank charges. I'm going to choose my admin account and then click save. And if I now just click the back button, I can actually see now that I've actually got nothing left in suspense. I'm actually happy to go through and post my bank statement. Okay, so to post your bank statements, if you want to post all of your bank statements that you've processed in one go, very quick and easy, just click the top box and it will highlight all of your bank statements, and then you have the option to click post. So it will come up with a confirmation and ask you, are you sure that you want to post all the selected bank statements? And if you are, just click OK. So depending on how you have your settings in Twinfield, the default setting is to post all of your bank statements as provisional. So I'm just going to go ahead and just refresh my screen, and I can see that my bank statements have now been posted. Okay, so the next thing I can do is go through an area called Provisional Transactions. And Provisional Transactions has a new home, so under Financial Professionals, we have Transactions. And under Transactions, you have Provisional Transactions. And I can see here that under my Barclays Bank, we have those 4 bank statements that we've posted. So I can still go in and do a little bit of review work on them by clicking on the pencil. And I can see how the statement has been posted. Okay, so if you're not quite ready yet to make your bank statements final, you can actually just close out of it, and then when you are ready to make those transactions final, you do have the options to either use the Make Final button, or you can go back to the main screen, and if you want you to post all those bank statements final, you have the option here. Okay, so another area that I'd like to show you is the bank allocation rules. And the bank allocation rules is under cash and banks. And just next to the bank statement area that we clicked on, we have allocation rules. And in here we can actually see how Twinfield remembers what transactions you've posted previously and where they should be booked to. So at the moment it's built up 6 rules for me. On the page it's just displaying 5, so if I need to see the rest, I can actually just click through and it will show me all the rules and how they have been set up for me. Okay, so I'm going to return back to the desktop. Okay, and I've got another poll question for you. So this time, I'd just like to find out and just gauge how many of you are processing your bank statements electronically, or how many of you are processing your bank statements manually. So if we can just have, if you could just answer either yes, manual, electronically, or it could be doing them both ways, depending on your banking provider. So it'd be good to see what the scores are. Okay, so we're getting there. We should be able to open up the poll in just a moment. Okay, so there's quite a lot of you using both methods. We've got a nice healthy percent of people using 30%, which is great, and 23% manual. So that's actually good to know that you are using that feature as well. It's very, very good to know that you're using both of them, so you're using both ways to process your statements. So you have more than one way to allocate and reconcile your bank statement. Another report that you can run to gather information about your bank statement and to see what position you are at the moment is by amending your trial balance report. And if I go back under financial professionals, we have the extended trial balance. And within the extended trial balance, I've actually just created another report. So if I just take out the reporting structure, so I've just highlighted it and I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so I've created another report, which is my bank reconciliation report. So here, if I just click into it and I run this report, oh, on that one I'm getting no data found. So just bear with me one moment. I think I've just clicked on the wrong one. See if that's going to work for me. Actually, no, it's not playing ball with me today, but I'm going to see whether or not I have one from my drop-down list, which I don't. But we can actually just go in and run a report which will show you those details. And another report you can go in and run is the general ledger balances by period, which will also give you a breakdown as well of your bank accounts if you've got them grouped. So under my general ledger reports, I have a report called General Ledger Balances per Period. And if I just go in and just click on that report and say next. Okay, so just at the top here where I've got my bank and cash, you can see that I've got it grouped, that I've got my bank account, my checks, and also my backs account together. So I can actually go through and each month see the different movements. And then I have my total at the end, which is just going to give me my total movement. So if you do have them grouped like this in your reporting structure and you are using checkbooks and deposits, then it's just a nice, quick and easy way to be able to get a position of the bank.